Final game, Shane, I saved the best for the last when it comes to SEC standings. First SEC game of the year. This is another one I've had circled on my calendar for months and months. Missouri on the road at Kentucky. Wildcats favored by 5.5. Games at 7:30 Eastern on SEC Network. Let's kick it over to our interview with Nate Edwards of Rock M Nation. All right, we're pleased to once again be joined by the great Nate Edwards, writer and editor for Rock M Nation. You can follow Nate at Nate G. Edwards on the Twitter machine, and he's the host of the Before the Box Score on the Rock M Nation podcast. Nate, thanks so much for joining me once again. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to be back, man. I'm a repeat offender. This is fun.
So, the big game of the week, obviously, we're going to get all over this Kentucky-Missouri matchup. But before we get to that, I really wanted to get your thoughts on Steve Wilks and his debut there with Missouri. What did you think of the Tigers' new defense?
It's a work in progress. You don't change a DC and a scheme in one season and immediately, kind of pick up where you left off. It's still a 4-2-5. Obviously, the guys on the field are a little bit different, but hey, a DC calls a game a little bit differently. The flow's a little bit different. His aggression's a little bit different. And he likes to call actual plays instead of Ryan Walters calling single high safety cover one every single game. So it was an interesting debut. It's a work in progress. I'm going to give him credit though. I know a lot of NFL coaches tend to get labeled with, they don't adapt, they don't change. And he saw that his zone coverage was not working in that first half. And he changed it up. He went back to man. He knew it meant that his corners were going to get burned a little bit, but he also knew he couldn't stick with the zone trying to get a 4-man pass rush. And he started blitzing and he started using man. And he clamped down on those receivers. Khalil Pimpleton, I know he's a MAC receiver. He's a great receiver. He had one catch on 10 targets and literally did nothing. So it was very impressive to see them key in on the passing game and take that away from Jacob Sermon, who's a dangerous passer. Defensive lines are work in progress. That's something that Wilks needs to work on, and he admitted as much yesterday. But overall, I was impressed that he could adapt, that he could change, and he could address the issues and get his guys to execute towards the end. And I think it's going to be a rough season as they get their feet under them, but I am pleased with the hire so far.
Yeah, and I know on your podcast you mentioned this, but it was interesting that their use of defensive backs in the opener, they've got these two guys from Tulsa that by all accounts, legit NFL prospects, and for whatever reason, they didn't really start the game out. Do you think that they'll rotate? How do you think they'll do their defensive back rotation this week for Kentucky?
Well, I mean, we saw Kentucky throw it all over the field last Saturday. Looking at Central Michigan, the 2020 version of the Chippewas was very, very conservative, ground-oriented, threw a little, but not a lot. And there's a couple of ways you could look at the rotation here. Yes, once again, Ish Burdine and Enos Rakestraw are listed as or starters, with Allie Green and Caleb Evans kind of the second slot or the other pairing of that or. But there is a chance that Wilks thought they were going to see a lot more rushing and wanted to get kind of his tacklers in there on the corners. And then he realized that they weren't going to do that, and then rotated in at least to Caleb Evans. Allie Green only saw 22 snaps, most of them obvious passing down situations. So that might just be it. That might just be, hey, if we're seeing a lot of passing, Evans and Green come in. If there's more rushing or we want to attack the ground attack a little bit more, we're going to bring in Burdine and Rakestraw. The point is that regardless of who is starting, it's always going to be snap counts at the end. And at the end of the Central Michigan game, a Caleb Evans and Enos Rakestraw were your clear 1 and 2 with a bullet. Ish Burdine, Chris Abrams-Drain, and Allie Green were kind of behind there as well. So it's those things, man. Like, coaches don't make the depth charts, it's usually an SID who puts that thing together.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anyone's really looking too close at it. So they might not care what we think as fans. But you're going to see who the favorites are in the pecking order based off of playing time. And if that's the case, it is going to be Evans and Rakestraw.
What were your thoughts on Connor Basilak in his first game of this season? He comes right out, hits the deep shot,
Mhm.
and I was thinking, oh my God, here my Mizzou mention is going to be wild here after I was so down on Basilak. But then after, basically the opening drive, I mean, it's not like he played completely poorly, but, kind of more of the same what I saw last season. Really struggled to hit that downfield passing game, which at times was there for him. What was your thoughts on Connor Basilak?
I thought it was fine. I kind of anticipated him picking up where he left off. In my preview, I assumed he'd probably go, 65, 67% completion rating with, I wanted to see a 7.5 yards per attempt. He actually ended up at 7.6 and he ended at 65.6% completion. That's fine. That's bumping up your yards per attempt from last year by zero point 0.6 yards. That's keeping your accuracy, which was really, really good last year. I didn't think we were going to see a lot because I didn't think Missouri coaches wanted to show a lot. And I was with you when they opened up with the deep bomb. I was like, all right, let's go. But then he only really tried three others after that, two to Dominic Lovett and another one to Boo Smith. And they were, just tips of the fingers, just out of reach. One was just the wrong shoulder that Lovett was looking over. So it's stuff that you got to iron out. Obviously, week one, game one, you're trying to figure it out. Clearly, Kentucky didn't have that problem last week. I know that, but Basilak was not willing to go deep last year, and he showed that he would, at least in the first game. So that's improvement. Now we just need to get the timing down a little bit, get the hands on a little bit more. But overall, I don't expect Bays to be throwing 300, 400 yards a game. I expect him to put up about 250. He had a couple touchdowns. Let's do that again and just have a passing game that complements the running game. I think that's what Eli Drinkwitz wants in his offense, and that's certainly what we saw on Saturday.
Any concern that Missouri was 1 for 11 on third down? And obviously that's very poor, but do you think they can get that corrected here heading into this game?
Well, they need to. They absolutely need to. Here's the thing. Looking at the third downs, 1 for 11 is bad. That's really bad. At the same time, most of their plays came on first and second down. That they were able to stay within the chains for the most part. If they got into third down, they were in trouble. Sure, that's not great, but their average yards to go on third down was 11.2 yards. If they had anything under 9, they completed it, and the only one they had under 9 was a 3-yard third down that they converted. So no, you don't get to win a bunch of games in the SEC by having a 9% third down conversion rate. At the same time, you're not going to see an average of 11.2 yards on your third down every single week. Mm-hmm. Some of that is going to change. Now, some of that might be because of play design and like the drop deep balls, sure. But at some point that's going to even out. If that's a situation where we play Kentucky and we see, oh, we're in 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14 again, that's something that needs to be addressed. I'm chalking that up to week 1 jitters, and please don't ask me about it again. Thank you.
Well, on the last episode, we had Sean Smith of Kentucky Daily, and he just, really emphasized what a critical game this is for Kentucky, which it's kind of weird that it's week 2 and it's such a big game. But do you sense that same magnitude of this game for the Missouri Tigers and their season?
Well, every game in the SEC is important. That's the cliche. But really, Missouri and Kentucky are peer programs. And Kentucky, to me, I don't have my finger on the pulse of Lexington football, but it kind of seems to me that Kentucky is operating at full steam. This is it, right? Like you get double-digit wins every couple of years, rebuild and get back to that point. I think they are fully functional, weaponized Kentucky Wildcat football, and that program is what Missouri is trying to be. So yes, we are, I think, historical peers, but right now I think Kentucky is a little bit higher in the pecking order. Eli Drinkwitz is building towards what Mark Stoops has. So it is really important to beat what Mark Stoops has to continue that journey. I do think it's important to them. I know that Drinkwitz went on his conference call yesterday and said that this team was not prepared to win a game on the road in the SEC. That was a direct challenge to his players, but also just a reminder to the fans, hey, we are a work in progress. This is not even year 2. This is game 2 of their second season here. This is game 12 of his tenure. these games are important without a doubt, but this team is a work in progress. They're going to give it their all, and they're going to try and hang tough. But if you're wondering like, oh, does this mean that they're going to win? Probably not. It means that they're going to give max effort because it's important. But we're not really looking at wins here on the field all the time. We are looking more of wins as far as development, culture building, and the scheme on the field and making sure kids can understand it.
Now, I'm not sure if you saw this stat floating out this week, but during the Mark Stoops era, the Kentucky-Missouri game, and I think this is 8 or 9, the score of those games combined, 177 Kentucky, 177 Missouri. So I'm not a huge believer in what's happened in the past necessarily correlates to what we're about to see. But assuming that we do get a tight game here, do you think that Missouri has the edge in coaching when you talk about Drinkwitz, and he seems to do really well in these one-score ball games?
Yeah, I talked about this in my preview series. For Eli Drinkwitz as a head coach, which again, remind you, 1 year at App State, 1 year at Mizzou, and now the 2021 season. The dude is 6-1 in one-score games. The one loss was, I think it was App State. It was like Georgia Southern, I think, they lost 24-21 at App State. But he is very good in those situations. And when you are talking about teams or coaches that are good in close games, you're looking at good game management, you're looking at great quarterback play, and you're looking at elite special teams. And Missouri, for the past 2 years, has had elite special teams with Harrison Mevis, our big, beautiful thicker, and then Grant McInnes, who used to play for Kentucky, now plays for Mizzou, has never lost the Kentucky-Missouri game, by the way, sixth-year senior. So we'll see if that holds true. But he is a punting monster. And Basilak, I know there's detractors. The touchdowns aren't great. He doesn't throw a great deep ball. At the same time, he manages the game very well. He makes good decisions when throwing the ball. So I'm going to say, yes, until proven otherwise, Eli Drinkwitz has my seal of approval for close game magic and everything that goes into it. And yeah, he's going to lose a few here and there, but he has shown with an outgunned team for, 11 games now that he can succeed and thrive in close game situations. So if they keep it close in the fourth quarter, you bet I'm going to feel confident that he can pull it out until again, proven otherwise.
Now, I'm interested to hear your reaction. I don't know if you heard these comments or not, but Mark Stoops flat out this week said, we got out-coached by Missouri. And he vowed that won't happen again this season. So I don't know. I'm just curious what are your reaction to hearing Mark Stoops make such a bold statement like that?
Yeah, he did get out-coached because he ran 36 plays last year, 4 yards per play. That was not good. I think Missouri put up 423 on him, and Kentucky had 152. They attempted 8 passes last year between Terry Wilson and Joey Gatewood, and Chris Rodriguez was good, but it wasn't enough. And so, yeah, I would say, maybe it was coaching. At the same time, how much coaching can be done to stop a 20-play drive? At some point, it's just they're on a roll and there's not much you can do about it. If that's the case, and I know they were having some issues, the coaches were having some issues at this time last year. So that's not great. That certainly takes your head out of the game. If he thinks that he was out coached, sure, I believe him that he's paid to do this job. And I'm sure he knows very much when he has been outdone. Eli Drinkwitz, like I said, I think he's a good tactician. I think he's a good game manager. I don't think there's any shame in being out coached by Drinkwitz. But Stoops does have a better team. I mean, he certainly has a better program. So if he is dialed in and he's ready to win because he wants to avenge last year's embarrassment, okay. You should want to win all games anyway. That's fine. I hope he doesn't, but I certainly understand the sentiment.
So if Missouri does go on the road and beats Kentucky in Lexington, what's the recipe for that? I don't know if you want to call it an upset, but just what's the recipe for that?
Yeah. Missouri staying within standard downs. So, that's 2nd and 8 and shorter, or third and fourth down and 4 shorter, keeping it very manageable, no turnovers, winning the special teams, those hidden yardage, winning the field position battle, and probably 1 or 2 turnovers and none on their side. It's not flashy. It's certainly not like the most fun brand of football to watch, but all season it's just get the W's where you can. And Missouri is going to try and just kind of grind it out and make the right choice and try and get some turnovers on defense. And that's all very, very cliche stuff, but it's true. That's how you win in the SEC. And that's certainly how you win when you are at a disadvantage on the road against a very good program.
Do you think I know they don't go head to head, so it's kind of weird when we make these head to head comparisons, but Chris Rodriguez and Tyler Beatty, maybe, I don't know if you can get a better combo of running back in an SEC game going head to head. Which running back do you think has a bigger game here on Saturday?
Well, obviously I love me some Tyler Beatty. Like I think he's a great back, and he showed last week that we had our doubts of whether he could be the primary running back, and he answered those questions with an affirmative. Yep, I can. However, he doesn't get to run against the Missouri defensive front, and Chris Rodriguez does. And, we saw a couple of younger guys on the line show out and really show some disruption, which was needed. But that interior of that line was getting washed out, like for at least for 8 plays for sure. And certainly even more than that. And our linebackers love to make things go boom, but also can get a little aggressive in over pursuit. So if I had to guess, I'm going to say Chris Rodriguez has a better game. That would probably mean that Kentucky wins. I don't know, but just based off of the offensive line that the Wildcats have and the inconsistencies that the Missouri defensive lines had, I would say Rodriguez is going to have probably out-duel Beatty this time.
All right, last thing for you, Nate. I can't let you go without making a prediction. Who wins this game?
Oh, God. I'm going to say Kentucky wins the game. I think it's going to be close. I certainly think it's going to be close. I can be gloriously wrong in these situations, but I think the state of Kentucky right now, the state of Missouri right now, as far as programs go, the quality of the team, Drinkwitz is closing the gap, but it's not there yet. It's on the road in Lexington. This will be the first time Drinkwitz has played on the road in the SEC as an SEC coach. There's a lot of young guys on this team. This is going to be the first home game for Kentucky for a while. They're going to be amped. They want to beat us. I think there's a lot of factors that are going against Missouri right now. I think they play it tough, and I think they lose. I'm going to say 31-24 Kentucky.
And, sorry, one more thing. If Missouri does win this game, is there any debate that they're a better football program considering that they beat Kentucky 2 back-to-back years in Drinkwitz's first 2 seasons there?
No. I mean, lesser teams beat greater teams all the time. That's the magic of college football. I don't think anybody who follows these programs are going to say, well, this one game certainly means that the build over the past 5 years is completely null and void, and Kentucky now sucks and Missouri is awesome. I think, for this year and maybe even next year, Kentucky is primed to be the number 3 team in the SEC East. That comes across as like the realistic goal for teams not named Florida and Georgia to be the number 3 in the SEC East, which is fine. Hey, maybe even Kentucky beats Florida and they become number 2 this year. I don't know. I think they could. But if Missouri beats Kentucky, that's not a ramification on everything else that's happened before and what can happen going forward. It just means Missouri was the better team that day. If they played 10 times, I would say Kentucky wins 6 or 7 of those. At least this version of that. And I hope this is one of the 3 or 4 times that Missouri wins. But Missouri is getting there. Missouri is building towards what Kentucky is. I don't think we're there yet, but Saturday, like I said, would go a long way in getting us to that goal.
All right. He's Nate Edwards. Check him out at Nate G. Edwards and all his work. He's a writer and editor for Rock M Nation. And I love his Missouri podcast, Before the Box Score. That's via the Rock M Nation podcast. Nate, I really do appreciate you joining the show once again and dropping so much Mizzou knowledge on us.
Thanks for having me, man. Looking forward to the next time.